Okay, so this is 3.2 slope intercept form. Okay, so again, this whole unit is talking about linear functions, right? Linear functions are straight lines, meaning that there's a constant rate of growth, right? It's growing by the same amount every single time. The next few lessons are going to be talking about how do we actually model it in an equation. So when we write equations of linear functions, we have different forms. So today we're going to be talking about one form. The first form that we're going to be talking about is slope-intercept form. The next lesson is going to be talking about point-slope form. And the extension lesson is going to be talking about standard form, okay? So again, an equation or a linear function can be written all three of these ways, right? They're just different ways to say the same thing. So in slope-intercept form, we need to know the slope and the y-intercept, okay? So you should be hopefully familiar with this. This is the form that's y equals mx plus b, right? And so m is our slope, right? And our slope is usually written as change in y over change in x. And then b is our y-intercept, right? So the y-intercept, that's when x equals 0, and it's also where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so what we're going to first talk about is how do we actually find the slope, the m. Okay, so I'm going to write that here. So first thing that we're going to talk about is finding slope, right? And so there are lots of ways that you can find slope because there are many ways to represent slope. So slope can be represented as change in y over change in x. It can also be represented as rise over run, right, which is usually useful in graphs. And then change in y, this right here, is just the same thing as me saying y2 minus y1. And this, the change in x, is the same thing as me saying x2 minus x1. So if you like formulas, you'll like this last one, okay? So let's say I was given 2 points. I was given -4, 7, and I was given -6, -4. Now, if you're a formula person, just label your points. So the first point is x1, y1, and the second point is x2, y2, and you can just go ahead and plug it into this formula. Okay, so if you're a formula person, do that. If you're a more visual person like me, I like to make just a little table. So I have my XY table, and I'm gonna write my 2 points on it. And so now I wanna find the change. How do I go from 7 to -4? Like how many spaces do I have to go to get from 7 to -4? So you can count in your head, or you can just do -4 minus 7, the second number minus the first number, right? And so that's gonna give you -11. So this is my change in y. And then to find my change in x, again, to go from -4 to -6, that's just going down 2. So you know it's going to be -2. But let's say you don't know that. Again, you can just take the second number minus the first number, right? So you're going to get -6 plus 4, which does in fact give you -2, right? Which makes sense because -4 to -6 is just down 2. So this is my change in x. And so now to find slope, it is change in y over change in x, right? So my change in y was -11. My change in x was -2. So the negatives cancel out. So my slope, or my m, is 11 over 2. So this is my slope, right? So that's how you find the slope if you're given points. Now, let's say we're given a graph right here, like this. Now, you could do the same thing. So like you always want to start by identifying two really easy to read points. So for example, for me, this is really easy to read and this is really easy to read. Okay, so you could just write out the points, right? This is -2, 5. This is 2, -1. And you could do exactly what I just did. But also, we can do rise over run, right? And so what we want to do is we want to see how much we have to go up or down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have to run 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the left, so that's -4. So it would be 6 over -4, which is going to give me -3 over 2, right? Because both the top and the bottom can be divided by 2, or just put this in your calculator and hit math, enter, enter, and that will give you -3 over 2, okay? So that's how you find the slope when you're given points or if you're given a graph. Let's now talk about finding the y-intercept. So we're going to talk about finding the y-intercept, right? That's our b in this case. So to find the y-intercept, let's go back to the problem that we were doing first. So I have -4, 7, -6, -4. Those were the 2 points we're dealing with first. And we found that the slope is 11 over 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just at least put the slope into the equation. Y equals mx plus b. So I have y equals 11 over 2 x plus b. I'm trying to solve for b, which means I need to figure out an x and a y. Well, here's the thing. We're actually given 2 points, right? So what you're going to do is choose a point and plug it in. So plug a point in. It doesn't matter which one. You can choose whichever one. I'm going to do -4, 7. So this is my x, this is my y. When I plug things in, I would put parentheses. So instead of x, I'm putting -4, right? And so I'm going to have 7 equals. If you put this in your calculator, you're going to get -22 plus b. And now I'm trying to get b by itself, so I need to solve for b. So I'm going to get b equals 29. So now I have my m and I have my b, so I'm going to write out the equation. So y equals, my m was 11 over 2x, and my b was positive 29. So this is my final linear equation, okay? If we're given a graph, so if we're given a graph, I'm going to go back here. You have to, so I'll write it here. In a graph, look for where the line crosses the y-axis, right? So the y-axis is this axis right here. So if you notice, it crosses it right here. So this is my y-intercept. This is my b, okay? So I have my m. My m was -3 over 2, and my b was just 2, positive 2. So my equation would be -3 over 2x plus 2, okay? So now you should be able to write equations in slope-intercept form, whether you're given a graph or whether you're given 2 points.